on the fundamentals, and Milind Vasudev, Arihant Capital Markets on the technicals. Okay, let's first just take a couple of those stocks. Can you bring up Jindal Drilling and Monsanto first? Also a 1 month chart. I just wanted to put some of the stocks out there. And all these Mangalam, Arcade Ply, Green Ply, Century, all the ply stocks, we'll just put all of them out. Milind, just starting out with Monsanto, what are your views here? I mean, we had a 20% yesterday, another 15% today.
Yeah, if you see, there is a good volume breakout. With volumes, the counter is going up. So we are of that opinion that one can keep a stop loss of, say, 1800, and once it crosses 2290, which is the 200-day moving average line, if it closes above that, yes, you could expect Monsanto to head towards 2400 to 2600 levels.
And a very clean breakout that you've seen. That's today's chart. Do you have a 1 year chart? I think it's coming close. I've moved up to some 3000 plus levels, and then of course so maybe in some institutional buying, or maybe just general support out there, but that's clearly a breakout. So it's broken out of multiple resistances. Maybe at around 2450 it should be heading right up. Avinash, thanks for joining us. I wanted to take a couple of stocks that we had on our list: Sri Renuka, Bajaj Hindustan, and maybe Monsanto, if you have any views on these three.
Good morning, Ashu. I think, if you talk about the sugar stocks, I think clearly we are seeing that, on the pricing side, as well as, on the import duty side, I think the sector now looks well poised. In fact, our sense is that possibly FY17 should be a good year in terms of the operational earnings pickup. And more importantly, I think clearly as long as sugar prices internationally remain firm, in fact, this year we are looking at a sugar crop which would be a deficit, and demand growing by about 6-7%. So I think within the sugar space, we still continue to be positive on something like a Balrampur Chini, which we feel that despite a strong outperformance should do well in FY17 also. As far as Monsanto is concerned, our sense is that the monsoon forecast this time by SkyMet has been very encouraging, and I think the first recovery obviously would be the agro and the pesticide companies. Clearly, Monsanto looks to be on a strong uptrend. I think once we have the onset of the monsoon, pan-India, which SkyMet has said in the next 20-25 days is possible, I think that would be a big kicker as a sentiment driver. And for a company like Monsanto, I think the forthcoming quarter is a very profitable quarter, at least the first half. So to that extent, we believe that earnings pickup would be definitely be very strong. So we would advise that whoever is holding on should definitely pick up, because both from a short-term as well as medium-term perspective, we feel that at least a 17 to 18% earnings growth in Monsanto for the next 1 year looks possible.
So let's, Smita, we can put up the 1 month chart for Monsanto again, and the 3 month candlestick. You don't have to put me on. I just wanted to see the bigger screen and see exactly what. So beautiful chart. I mean, if you really look at it, and let's look at the 3 month chart, you'll see the breakout right there. I mean, essentially, it's just kind of broken out. First, it had a smooth upward channel. What you need to see is the candlestick sizes are emerging, and when you see the wick upwards, it means that's the highest price it starts. So basically, the stock's trying to leap. It falls back on the trampoline, leaps again, but leaps even higher, and that's what you're seeing. So amazing rise in that particular stock. All right, let's take a couple more if we can. Can we bring up all those plywood stocks once again, and Store One? If you can bring up Store One Retail. See, this I think used to be India World's Retail, and then it turned into. So if you can show me a 1 month chart on that, and also a 3 month chart, and then we'll look at Arcade Ply. Let's also look at this Mangalam Timber and a couple of other ones. So I mean, here is just, you see that disconnect essentially means that the opening prices were way higher than the closing price of the previous day. It's been happening again and again. Essentially opens with a gap and just runs into a freeze, and that's what you've basically seen. That's Arcade Ply. Let's bring up Mangalam Timber. That one ran into a freeze also. Green Ply if you have. So not the cleanest chart patterns, but usually for trend starts, maybe that's what you start seeing out there. Milind, if you've looked at any of these plywood stocks, Green Ply, Arcade Ply, Mangalam Timber, and also if you've taken a look at Store One Retail.
See, today if you see Store One also, it has given a strong breakout above 80. But if you see the risk to reward ratio would not be in your favor, but those who are holding this stock at current level can only keep a stop loss of say 96 and hold a stock, and on the upside the stocks could head towards 130, 135 levels.
Right. Let's just bring up that Green Ply 1 month chart. While Arcade Ply everything is running, Mangalam Green Ply's chart was nice and beautiful, smooth, one way, I'm just going to put that for you. Again, similar to Monsanto's. Let's put up a 3-month chart in the C and see what's happening out here. Once again, I mean, you can see the momentum in the stock right there on the charts for you. Milind, have you looked at this green ply chart?
Yeah, green ply chart, if you see, there is a triangular breakout which has happened at 210 levels, and currently it is trading at 225. One can keep a stop loss of, say, somewhere around 196, and on the upside, this counter could test 250 to 260 levels.
If you're looking for themes, two kinds of themes are working out very well in the market right now. You've got a couple of oil and gas stocks. I'm not going to get into the specifics. Technically, maybe on the fundamentals doesn't all sound right, but they've been doing very well. Yesterday it was oil country tubular. Today we have Jindal Drilling, if we can just put that one up. Aban Offshore. We'll take a look at a 1-month chart and a 3-month chart. And some of those textile stocks, Sutlej Textiles, Banswara Syntex, all kinds of new stuff emerging. So there's Jindal Drilling for you. Then just if we can put Aban Offshore. After that we can put up Sutlej Textiles and Banswara Syntex. We'll take a look at all 4 of them, and also 1-month charts and 3-month charts. Milind, any of these that have you've come across? Jindal, Aban, Banswara and Sutlej Textiles?
See, in that, Aban is looking slight promising. One can keep a stop loss of 191. Once it closes about 218, expect this stock to head towards 230, 236 to an outer extent of 242 levels.
So here's the monthly chart. If you look at a monthly chart of Aban, maybe it doesn't look that smooth. Let's look at a 3-month chart also. So, when you're deciding to trade, you may want to just differentiate between whether the stock is going to hold up for a day or two, or it's a longer term. I mean, a longer term chart seems like it broke a channel but started to move down a little bit. Let's bring up Sutlej Textiles, also Banswara Syntex and Jindal. 1-month chart and a 3-month chart, and we'll take a look at what's going on. Yeah, you can give me today we've seen, just give me a 1-month and a 3-month, and we'll see if there is a clear trend out there. So this one looks neat. Let's take a look at a 3-month chart on this one and see if there's some real breakout on this one. Wow, I mean, looks like the trend has held up over a 1-month and a 3-month period. You've got Jindal Drilling now. Yeah, Banswara, also 3-month on Banswara. We'll take a look at that one. Yeah. So nice, neat, clean charts. Milind, I'll get a fundamental view, but I wanted to ask you, all textile stocks have been running up. But if you compare a Jindal and Aban Offshore, looks like the candles started to head down, some kind of a downward channel. But you don't see that in Sutlej, and you don't see that in Banswara. I mean, essentially, even the 1- and 3-month charts look clean.
Yes, clearly, if you see in Aban Offshore, which I am talking about, it has fallen quite a bit, but then there has been some consolidation at current level. So we are expecting some short covering in this or some bounce back. So one can keep a stop loss of 191 and expect 230, 236 levels in that.
Let's take Kakatiya Cement. I mean, it's a really interesting stock. If you can give me a 1 day, 1 month, 3 month, 1 year, all of them, Smita, and then we'll just discuss it with our guests. Also 1 month, and also Star Paper Mills. If you have that one, if you can just put any company would have been fine, but Star Paper Mills. So you can see beautiful trend, even a 1 month. You want to bring a 3 month up, and we'll take a look at a 1 year, and then we'll look at Star Paper Mills. Avinash, just coming to these 3 groups of stocks, we've seen all paper stocks start to rise. I was reading somewhere that maybe raw material prices were at maybe 35-year highs. Is that what's causing it? Same with textiles. I mean, all textile stocks seem to have broken out. And then, of course, these plywood stocks. Avinash?
No, I think, Ashu, if you talk about plywood stocks, I think the news flow saying that possibly an anti-dumping duty would be put on plywood imported from abroad is definitely the kicking point today. And I think companies like Century Ply, Green Ply, I think which have got a large customer base, a large market share, and which have a huge capacity. I think Century Ply is looking at incremental capacity coming up in the first half of FY17. So obviously this is a sentimental effect, but I think the bigger trigger could come in once real estate projects also take off. Because clearly there is a pent-up demand, and if real estate projects take off, then I think these companies benefit, obviously. So Century Ply and Green Ply would definitely show a very strong momentum, not only from a short-term but longer-term side. Talking about paper stocks, I think you're right. Looking at the performances earlier of JK Paper, Orient Paper, typically companies have come out with splendid Q4 numbers, very strong EBITDA margins. And now talking about, other paper stocks, I would suggest that, definitely FY17 is going to be a good year. although raw material prices have gone up, hopefully, the realizations have improved. And that is the reason we have been seeing the EBITDA margin improvement keep coming in. So I would say that, JK Paper in this space looks interesting because here the risk reward could possibly be better. And as far offshore stocks is concerned, I think, yesterday crude data came out from the US. I think inventories have come down and I think crude has spiked up again. So, stocks like Jindal Drilling or typically Avan Offshore, which obviously get a positive kicker, when crude prices firm up because their oil rig rates are all linked to the crude oil prices. So our sense is that clearly some signs of stabilization on the crude price and some recovery signs look visible. So here I think Avan looks pretty interesting. The stock has been hammered from a high of around 500 rupees. And the company has made significant efforts to reduce its debt on the balance sheet also. So I would say that if anybody has a medium to long-term view, Avan could be an interesting choice. And I think this would be clearly linked to the global recovery in crude prices. So keep a watch on Avan Offshore.
Yeah, so my request is that please do keep your paper and pencil ready, because the reason I show you the 1 year, 1 month, 1 year, 3 month charts is to see whether the stocks have been moving consistently. So you need, that's what we call a time confirmation. You of course have a price confirmation, you need a volume confirmation and a time confirmation to know if the stock's solid enough. Let's take a look at Jayant Agro. Can you put up Jayant Agro? And we'll also take a look at Allsec Technologies. And let's look at RSWM Limited. So Jayant Agro, if you have a 3-month chart also, let's take a look at what's doing on the 3-month chart. So wow, I mean, so you can see that towards the end, the stock started to leap, which means the opening prices were opening with a gap, which is a very good sign in terms of momentum in a stock. Let's look at Allsec Technologies and RSWM, a 3-month chart also, and then we'll look at RSWM. So this one also neat and clean trend upwards. If you want to call it anything, it's kind of an upward channel, which essentially just means the pipe is heading let's say on a 45-degree angle, usually a good sign again technically. Milind, if you've looked at any of these 3 stocks, Jayant Agro, Allsec Technology and RSWM.
See, RSWM, which I have seen this chart, even today it has opened up with a gap, and clearly it has given a rounding breakout with good volumes. So one can hold this stock at current levels, and on the higher side, yes, expect this stock to move towards 420 to 440 levels in a couple of months' time.
Any views you have, Avinash? It wasn't on your list, but I just came across these 3 stocks that were running today. I was wondering if you have any views on them.
I think I would be more positive on RSWM. Here looking at the kind of performance, from companies like Sutlej, which has reported a 78% growth in the bottom line in Q4. Hopefully, clearly, if cotton prices remain in control and we have a good crop post, expected monsoons, I would suggest that, both Sutlej as well as RSWM could show a strong kind of recovery. In fact, RSWM is more present on the cotton polyviscose as well as, polyester kind of input, where cotton is a kind of a blend we used in their product. I think earnings recovery is definitely visible. In fact, my sense is, Ashu, even at the current price, RSWM and maybe even Sutlej look pretty attractive, and the risk reward is pretty good if one takes a 6 to 12 month view. So you could possibly see textiles coming back as a flavor, and these are typical mid-cap stocks where I think, this is probably the beginning of an uptick cycle.
Right. And you brought up a very interesting point, Avinash, because textiles almost never gets covered. I mean, I remember seeing coverage 6, 7 years ago or 8 years ago when a whole rally started in textiles, leaving in Arvind, maybe 1 or 2 others. Nobody covers these stocks. And sometimes the question is if the stock's gone way below even quote unquote the intrinsic value. Is that what's happening, Avinash, here?
I think exactly, Ashu. I think one thing is very much clearly visible, that I think value-based investors are now looking at stocks, where the valuations are very aggressive, very attractive, and where earnings growth in the next 12 months is going to be quite robust, specifically, in terms of 12 to 15%, and more importantly, where the hype is not there, where the brand is not there, but still valuations are definitely attractive. So I think the markets are now looking at this sector as a kind of a growth-oriented sector after a lot of underperformance for a significant amount of time. So I would say that these are typically delivery-based kind of stocks where one needs to take a 6 to 12 month view, but where a lot of money can be made. If possibly one can hold on for at least the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay, I may have just time for a couple more, but let's take Sudarshan Chemicals. Usually doesn't have much volumes, but it's been pretty strong. Jubilant, Jubilant, if you're looking at from an API and chemicals angle, this was the big company in chemicals, so to speak. Let's take a look at Jubilant, what's happening, and can you give me a 3-month chart on this also? And we'll also take a yearly chart. So not a bad chart, except what I'm trying to see is the stock's trying to make some breakout. I mean, it really pushes at the highest price but doesn't close there, seems to come back and kind of settle. Why is that happening? We'll just check that out. Sudarshan Chemicals also, if you can do the same, and Diamond Power Infrastructure. Actually, a lot of these power wire type of stocks seem to be. Sudarshan Chemical, again, beautiful chart. By and large, though, it goes up in spikes and then goes to sleep, basically stays in a channel. That may also be because maybe it's not overly liquid. So, maybe an institutional purchase or something else pushes it up and then it just kind of dies out. That's Diamond Power for you. So it's certainly been leaping out there. And we put one more up, which is, let's take it, Ugar Sugar, you can put it out, and Atul Limited. So in Milind, if you've looked at Sudarshan, you've looked at Diamond, you've looked at Jubilant or Atul, any views there? Okay, we'll just come back to Milind. I think Smita was trying to make a point with call drops and maybe why penalties should be there. Well, we'll see. Okay, Avinash, your thoughts? This Sudarshan Chemicals, Diamond Infrastructure, Atul and Jubilant.
I think out of the stocks you mentioned, Ashu, I think I would be more positive on Atul and Sudarshan Chemicals. In fact, we have seen that most of the specialty chemical companies have done remarkably well in terms of margin improvement, in terms of profits, because globally certain manufacturers have actually curtailed their production and there's a supply-driven kind of shortage. So I think clearly Atul incidentally has completed its business restructuring, and we hope that the numbers will be reported by Atul in the fourth quarter would be very robust. In fact, the same thing goes for Sudarshan Chemicals, where we believe that not only is it a very large player in the global dye market, but it's also a very large player in the agro space. So, the monsoon factor is also likely to play positively on a company like Sudarshan. So, the stock at the current level, for Sudarshan, 115, 16 rupees looks very aggressive. I mean, very attractive. And I think looking forward for a profitable year in FY17. So, I think out of the 4 stocks, I think Sudarshan and Atul, these could be stocks which possibly could be accumulated even at the current level.
Okay, let's bring up a stock on Cine Line. No, not this Atul, Smita, that's the Atul Limited, the dye company, if you can put that one up. And also just let's bring up this GP Petroleum, G as in Georgia, P as in Petroleum, GP Petroleum. Let's bring that stock up, and Cine Line, CINELINE. So, I have to apologize to Smita because I usually ask her to flash stocks that, where they come from? What can I do? I mean, they come on the charts like that, all over nowhere. So we'll see if these 2 stocks and what they're doing. Okay. So Milind, if you're back, Sudarshan, Diamond, Power Infrastructure, Atul Limited, not the auto one, Jubilant, and if you happen to have looked at Cine Line on GP Petroleum.
Yeah, sure. I've got 2 stocks. One is Atul Limited. Yes, it is clearly in a higher top, higher bottom formation, and one can only just keep a stop loss of say 1900. Expect this counter to test 2200 levels on the higher side. It's coming to Sudarshan Chemical. Yes, today also we have got a good volume breakout, and after a strong consolidation of say 115 to 96 level, there was a strong consolidation, and today it has given a strong breakout from that. So we expect that one can hold this counter with a stop loss of say 96. On the upside, yes, Sudarshan Chemical can test 136 to 142 levels.
Okay, Milind, we're going to be out of time, so I'm just going to ask you, do you have any technical stocks that look strong on a day trade, but also stocks, 2 or 3 stocks which you just find strong period that we have not discussed, and you've got a time, volume, momentum kind of a confirmation on it?
See, yes, Ashok, I'm a little bit bullish on IT sector, and today also we had given this call on our terminals, and I expect that TCS can move towards 2600 to 2650 in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay, any thoughts from you, Avinash? Anything where on a fundamental side, in fact, since we are speaking fundamental, I wanted to ask you, should we see a re-rating in all these infrastructure stocks now that they can put it in some kind of a investment trust and basically release, thousands of crores of capital?
Yeah, I think, typically I would say that, companies which have got, uncompleted projects because of bureaucratic delays or environmental delays, I think, typically the EPC or the bought companies, I would say something like a Sadbhav Infra, or maybe, typically, clearly, if you ask me from the agri space, because I'm pretty bullish on the monsoon. And I think the monsoon would obviously, give a big fillip to, other stocks like PI Industries or typically Rallies India. I would say keep a watch on sectors which are going to be benefiting, from the first, onset of monsoon. I think tractor companies like Escorts, Swaraj Engines would also do well. So I think clearly the focus should be on agri, and, as you rightly said, today the bankruptcy bill has gone through. So obviously you're going to see a lot of action coming from the banking sector, both on the private banking side as well as the PSU bank side. So probably from a medium to short term horizon, something like a Yes Bank, something like an SBI, Bank of Baroda, these are stocks which have now been beaten down. So clearly one could look at a good uptick, in the next few months.
All right, Avinash, always a pleasure to speak to you. Avinash Goraksakar from Moneylicious Capital, walking us through the fundamentals. Milind Vasudev, have a great trading day ahead. Thank you for joining us from Arihant Capital Markets. And I have tons of more stocks, but time's over. What do we have coming up? World of Mid-Caps? Yep, World of Mid-Caps. Deep's got to be there. Hero's got to be there. And they're speaking to the management of TVS Sri Chakra on the World of Mid-Caps as far as